Mrs. Putri, can you see my presentation?
Yes, the voice and the presentation is so clear.
Okay, thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, in this session, I will present about my research entitled Structure Modification of Andrographoloid at C14 hydroxyl group to improve its potency as anti-malaria. This is our background for this research. We as know that andrographoloid is a active compound from Andrographis paniculata. We say that is the king of bitter. Yeah, this is the largest content in the leaf, about 0.05%, and can also be found in the root, stem, and flower, buds, bud, and small amount. If we see the structure, andrographoloid has many functional groups, yeah, like allyl alcohol, secondary alcohol, primary alcohol, lactone ring, exocyclic double bond, and other. Andrographoloid has many biological activity, like hepatoprotector, anti-inflammatory, antivirus, and so on. This is a summary of our previous research. We do the computational prediction about andrographoloid as inhibitor aspartate protease. As we know, aspartate protease is a target for antimalarial activity. There are 10 plasmapsin 1, 2, 3, 4 until 10. But the 3 plasmapsin 1, plasmapsin 2, and plasmapsin 4 is the role more active for inhibit the aspartate protease. Okay, this is the docking store. We compare andrographoloid and pepstatin. Pepstatin is the standard for aspartate protease inhibitor. We can see andrographoloid is more still potential if we compare with pepstatin, because the binding affinity is not so much different. Okay, now is the lack of andrographoloid. First is the low water solubility, and then andrographoloid has biological activity broad but weak if we compare with a standard. So we must increase the physicochemical properties and increase therapeutic activity. So we must do a structure modification. Now we focus to C14. Often used as a target of modification. Why? Because if we see the role of the C14, hydroxyl group is good for antibacterial activity. But if we change the hydroxyl group with non-polar structural function, it's good for antivirus. As we know, antivirus is still same with aspartate protease inhibitor, like in flapmapsin. If we delete a hydroxyl group in C14, we can take a better of cytotoxic properties, get low, and antivirus activities is increased. And then this is a summary of our previous research. If we compare the andrographoloid and the derivative that we will take scientific action for this, we can see the derivative is more potential if we compare with andrographoloid. Okay, in this method, I do the synthesis with microwave assisted synthesis with 2 methods. The first method is by protecting the C3 and C19 hydroxyl group to produce a strong 319 isopropyridine and glycolide compound against the platelet attack. And the second, I do a direct reaction with the desired reagent. Okay, we can see this is a functional group that we will protect. Yeah, because if this not protect, the reactant also will again this group, and this group. Okay, this is a first method, and then this is the result. Yeah, this is the result. Direct method and indirect method. We can see the yield of the indirect method. The yield is 78%. This is more high than a direct method with no protection. Okay, this is a reaction mechanism, and then this is the appearance of our synthesis result. And then this is FTIR spectrum, MS spectrum, HNMR spectrum, CNMR spectrum. And then this is a conclusion. The first conclusion is modification of the C14 hydroxyl group on androglycolide can be done by using the microwave assisted synthesis method. The mass method for modifying the androglycolide on the C14 hydroxyl group is by protecting the C3 and C19 hydroxyl group first to obtain more yield. It has been shown that protection against C3 and C19 hydroxyl group increase the yield from 59 to 78%. And then further tests are needed on androglycolide derivatives that have been successfully synthesized to see their activity as antimalarial both in vitro and in vivo. Okay, that's all my presentation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Sandra. You have a very short presentation, but it's quite clear for us. Okay, and now we move to discussion session. Is there any question for Dr. Sandra from all participants? If there is no question, okay, we wait for you to give a question, but while waiting, I will give you a question. What is the differences between a direct and indirect synthesis? And then what is the differences when we use microwave assisted and non-microwave assisted to synthesize the product? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Ms. Putri. I will explain the differences direct and indirect method. As you can see in here, okay. This is an indirect method. We produce the intermediate. Before we get the structure of the target. This is the intermediate. The intermediate is androglycolide become to 319 isopropyridine androglycolide. Okay, this is I use this method for Purwono et al. 2007. Because this is easy to insert and remove with non-toxic reagent without affecting other functional group of available. Resistant to reagent that will attack unprotected functional group. This is the reactant 2.2 dimethoxypropane. 2.2 dimethoxypropane I react with androglycolide and become this intermediate structure. The intermediate structure is stable against nucleophilic attack, organometallic, and oxidizing. The intermediate, I continue react with salicylic oil chloride. This is the main reactant for to get our target. And direct method, we don't have to produce the intermediate like that. I react directly to the reactant. And then microwave I use because the microwave is more benefit, like less of what is that? Less of reactant, and then no more time, and so on. Okay. Anything else, Mrs. Putri?
No, okay. So when we use the microwave assisted, it is called as a green technology, right?
Oh, right. That is the benefit of the microwave irradiation.
Okay, because we are limited by time. Thank you for nice presentation and very clear answer from Mr. Sandra Megantara. Now we move to our second presenter, Ibu Dr. Alia Nur Hasanah. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you to the committee for the time for us to present our research with the title Preparation of Selective Adsorbent via Molecular Imprinted Polymer for Separation of Diazepam. We're from the Pharmaceutical Analysis and Medicinal Chemistry Department, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Padjadjaran. The outline of our talk today will consist of background, experimental end result, conclusion, and then ended with references. As we know, diazepam already used for treatment of insomnia in patient sleeping disorder, and also to treat anxiety and seizure for patient with epileptic. In Indonesia, diazepam is under regulation of government. So if someone wants to get diazepam, they have to have a doctor prescription, because excessive use without doctor prescription potentially lead to addiction, dependency, overdose, and it will lead to death. According to research, in 2015, 7.69% from 78 people misused diazepam in Indonesia, and 70% from 161 pharmacy at Tanzania provide diazepam even without a prescription from doctors. According to this research, we know that detecting and monitoring of diazepam in sample blood is really neat. But blood is a complex matrices, has a complex matrices. So we need a selective sample preparation to get drugs in the blood. And this one can overcome using a novel sample preparation method, which is a molecular imprinted solid phase extraction. So in this research, we will synthesize molecular imprinted solid phase extraction for diazepam extraction in sample blood. Using itaconic acid as functional monomer and propanol as a porogen. This is the scheme for the synthesis of diazepam itaconic acid in propanol as porogen. As a general scheme, when we want to synthesis the MIP, we have to have a template, which is diazepam that we use, and then itaconic acid, the functional monomer. We mix them together with the propanol as a porogen, and then mix again with the DGMA, which is the crosslinker, and BPO as initiator to initiate the polymerization. We have a polymer. After we have a polymer, we have to extract the template. So we will have a polymer with a molecular cavity, that will remember the shape and the size of the diazepam as a template that already extracted. So it will selectively extract diazepam when it exists in the blood. We continue with the experimental end result. This one will consist of association constant determination, and we will end it with physical characterization. For association constant determination, to find out the association constant between the functional monomer and the template, we are measure the absorbance of template solution, and then we increase the amount of functional monomer used, and we measure again using UV spectrophotometer. The result of the measurement is plotted into the linear regression, and we calculate the Ka value using Bennesi-Hildebrand equation. This is the result of association constant determination, and we find out the Ka value for diazepam and itaconic acid is 381.9 per molar. So according to Wang and Yu in 2007, this value is categorized as the strong interaction. For the synthesis of polymer, we are using bulk polymerization. We mix together all the compound that I already explained in the file, and then sonicate to release the oxygen dissolved, and then we put in the water bath 70 degrees Celsius for 18 hours. After we have a polymer, we crush them, and then we filter into using MES 16. We wash the reagent that not polymerized using ethanol and water, and we drying them in the oven 70 degrees Celsius 18 hours. We also made a non-imprinted polymer. We call it NIP to control the molecular interaction between the template and functional monomer. This is making using a same procedure as the MIP but without a template. So as I already explained that after we have a polymer, we have to extract the template. Extraction was done using the MIP solvent that we already made, is sonicate with the ethanol and acetic acid to extract the diazepam, and then sonicate again using ethanol aqueous, and we dry them using oven to 70 degrees Celsius for 18 hours. We monitor the diazepam maximum wavelength to see if we have to repeat the extraction or we can continue the process to adsorption determination. This is the result of the monitoring of the template of diazepam, and found out that the UV spectrum of MIP after 10 extraction is we couldn't found any maximum wavelength of diazepam anymore. So it means the extraction is already completed. We continue the process after we know that the template already extract by using adsorption percentage determination. From this one, the procedure is MIP or NIP is mixed with the template in various solvents. We are using chloroform, DMSO, acetonitrile, and propanol. We agitate for 120 RPM for 3 hours and then measure the filtrate using a UV. This is the result. From the result, we can see that the propanol is the highest solvent for adsorption percentage of diazepam. So this is have a linear correlation with other research that usually porogen that used on the synthesis having a highest adsorption percentage. After we know the optimal solvent for adsorption percentage determination, we continue the process to see the adsorption capacity determination to see what kind of adsorption isotherm that the MIP or NIP fit with them. We are using MIP or NIP plus various concentration of diazepam in propanol as an optimal solvent, and then agitate 120 RPM for 3 hours, measure again using a UV, and we plot the result into adsorption isotherm of Langmuir and Freundlich to see which one is suit better to MIP or NIP. This is the result for adsorption capacity determination on Langmuir. We see from the coefficient correlation it's far from 1, so it means the MIP or NIP doesn't fit with Langmuir, so the adsorption is not monolayer. We continue to fit into the Freundlich, and we see from the coefficient correlation is near to 1, so it means the MIP or NIP having a multi-layer adsorption and fit with Freundlich, and the capacity of the MIP is larger than NIP. We continue the analytical performance using selectivity determination by using the compound that have a similar structure with diazepam, which is alprazolam and hydromorphone. We mix them with the MIP or NIP, and then agitate also 120 RPM for 3 hours, and the filtrate was measured using UV. From this determination, we found out that the distribution constant of MIP is larger than NIP for diazepam. The imprinting factor is also larger than 1, so it means the template imprint is really success. But when we compare the result with the alprazolam, the same structure with the diazepam, we see that alprazolam having larger imprinting factor. after we analyze, we can see that the 3D structure of alprazolam is smaller. So there's a physical absorption also in the pore, so make the alprazolam has the higher imprinting factor. After we analyze the analytical performance, our next step is physical characterization using Fourier transform infrared, scanning electron microscope, and also using BET for surface area analyzer. The FTIR result, we can see that no peak in the wave number of 900, no double peak on wave number 900 until 1000 per centimeter. So it means we don't have any phenyl group that correlate with the uncompleted polymerization. So our polymerization is already complete. This is the result of scanning electron microscope and BET. From the scanning electron microscope, you can see that the MIP have a more homogeneous particle than NIP, and the surface area is also larger, so we have more space for absorption than NIP. The average pore size radius is also smaller, so it means it's good for absorption. It's correlate with the result of the imprinting factor that the MIP is better than NIP. So based on that, we can conclude that the MIP follow friendly isotherm with binding capacity of 0.0309 milligram per gram, but had an imprinting factor lower than alprazolam as a competitive analyte. The MIP of diazepam with itaconic acid as functional monomer and propanol as a porogen has a potential to be developed into MISPE. This is the references that we use. Thank you for your kind attention.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Dr. Alia. And next, we move to discussion session from all the participants. Is there any question for Ibu Dr. Alia? No question. Okay, Ibu, while we waiting for the question, I will ask to Ibu Dr. Alia. You use itaconic acid, right? Why you use itaconic acid, and is there any optimization before? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the question. There's a lot of functional monomer in the market. We are from the beginning, before we are doing the wet laboratory, we determine the interaction between the functional monomer and template using computational method. From the computational method, we found that the itaconic acid has having a hydrogen bond with the diazepam as a template. So it means when this is a non-covalent interaction that we made for the MISPE, so we need hydrogen bond interaction kind. So when we have hydrogen interaction kind on the computational method result, and itaconic acid is the one functional monomer that having that interaction, so we pick that, and then we continue the process into the wet laboratory.
Oh, so the choosing of the itaconic acid is using the computational.
Yes, based on the computational method, there's a hydrogen bond exists, so it means it can use for the as a functional monomer for MISPE. That's why we choose itaconic acid to for functional monomer.
Okay, in the market, is there any the other compound that has that hydrogen bond also, like the itaconic acid?
Yes, a lot. But we determine from the binding energy. So when the binding energy is low, so it means it's stable. When it's stable, so it means the interaction is
quite
stronger
good.
also. Yeah, because it's strong. So that's why.
How many compounds that you analyze when you did the computational study?
Okay, for computational study, we are using like almost 20 functional monomer that already exist in the market, and we found that itaconic acid is not the best one. So this is like the third monomer that having a lower binding energy. The first one is methyl methacrylate, but we already like present methyl methacrylate. So we want to know whether functional itaconic acid as a functional monomer is also having a good interaction or no. And we can see that from the imprinting factor, it's more than 1, but when we compare with the alprazolam, it's not quite good.
Okay.
So it's correlated with the computational method.
Okay. When we compare with methacrylate.
Methyl methacrylate.
Okay. The better method is methyl methacrylate.
Yes, yes.
Also
methyl methacrylate, yes.
So it makes sure what the computational study get, gitu ya?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Putri, I want to ask.
Oh yeah, okay.
Diazepam, we know that diazepam is physicotropic, and also how to get the to buy the physicotropic to research for the research.
For the standard,
okay.
Ya, Bu.
Okay, thank you for the question. We have a diazepam in the lab from the industry that give diazepam for us. So we have that first. To having the competitive analysis on alprazolam and hydromorphone, we have to use a doctor prescription. So we called our colleague and asked for the doctor prescription, and then we can have, but not in the pure compound, in the tablet. So we have to extract again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, because the time is limited. Now, we will move to the next presenter, Mr. Garnadi Jafar. Yeah, is already here. And before the presentation, I announced to all the participants to fill the attendance on the link in the chat room. Okay. Now we move to the third presenter, Mr. Garnadi Jafar. You can share your presentation now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just a minute. Something problem. Okay, thanks for your time. Thanks to the moderator for giving me the opportunity. On this occasion, I will present the result of my research. I apologize if there are still inaccurate sentence in the delivery of this presentation. Okay, the presentation that I will deliver is by title Formula Development and Characterization of Glyceryl Behenat or Compritol Atto in Formula Nanostructure Repeat Carrier or NLC Adapalene using sonication probe method. Okay, I'm Garnadi Jafar and my team promoter, Prof. Marlin Abdasha and Dr. Taufik Kristiana. Let us start with the introduction. Okay, nanostructure repeat carrier is one of the drug delivery system with modification that is able to improve the physicochemical properties of inactive ingredient. Carrier lipid nanostructure is second generation. Nanocarrier is the first generation improvement, namely solid lipid carrier. SLN, or solid lipid nanoparticle, only consists of solid lipid without liquid lipid. This weakness of SLN because the metric structure honored by SLN is very solid, resulting in slow loading capacity and the possibility of the explosive of the drug during storage in this system also has a high potential for explosive erupting drug. The liquid lipid component in NLC function to overcome SLN weakness, namely to describe the conformation of the solid lipid metric so that it does not become a perfect metric of solid lipid crystal. Adapalene, or ADA, is a new scientific retinate third generation. Is an anti-inflammatory, has a high affinity for the retinoic acid, or RAR, beta and RAR gamma receptor. In is effective the treatment of mild, the moderate acne in human. In USA, adapalene gel form is used for the topical treatment of moderate acne of the moderate of severe acne vulgaris with a concentration of 0.1% and 0.3%. But the effectiveness of which is superior is that gel ADA for 0.3%. Adapalene is low solubility in water, is lipophilic, and has a high melting point. I'm sorry. Okay. Nanostructured carrier lipid can be used to protect pharmaceutical active ingredient, namely adapalene, which is lipophilic, physicochemical properties and crystalline form that can irritate when in direct contact with the skin, but have great benefit, especially is anti-acne. NLC can increase targeted drug delivery, especially by topical administration route. The purpose of acne treatment is the dermis layer, so the NLC system is appropriate. I'm sorry. Adapalene is low solubility in water or is lipophilic and has a high melting point, more than 300 degrees Celsius. High ADA melting point can be associated with side effect, can be make redness on the skin when direct contact the skin. Material and method. Adapalene, PT Olon Spa Germany, we can see in the slide. And then method, the first is characterization raw material is the number one, FTIR testing. FTIR testing. FTIR testing is indicated to determine the compatibility with the material used. This test is carried out by analyzing the active substance adapalene. Compritol atau solid lipid and the mixture of adapalene solid lipid. The sample is crushed and placed in the sample container until it meets the crystal part of the Agilent Carry FTIR spectrometer. And then X-ray diffraction. X-ray diffraction analysis of the active substance adapalene, and then compritol atau solid lipid and mixture of the adapalene and compritol atau. XRD Bruker D8 instrument to determine the crystalline of the ingredients used. Sample were analyzed with scanning speed 1 minute. And then characterization differential scanning colorimetry. The DSC test was carried out to determine the melting point and properties of the material. Adapalene, single compritol single and adapalene and compritol mix placed in an aluminum plate on the DSC instrument thermal analysis license USA. Then heated from 20 degrees Celsius till to 600 degrees Celsius and speed heating 10 degrees Celsius minutes. The data obtained in the form of the thermogram with thermal parameter such as onset, offset, and maximum peak.
You have 3 minutes more for
Okay,
presentation.
sorry. Okay, result and discuss. The characterization of raw material. This characterization carried out from single compound and mixed compound, FTIR. In this picture, we can see a single compound adapalene and solid lipid, compritol. Then the mixture does not show new peak. This can be said that the two substances are compatible when mixed. And then XRD testing. The next raw material characterization was the XRD test. The adapalene compound image show a sharp peak as well as a narrow area. This show that adapalene compound have a high level of crystallinity. The second image show a solid compound that is not sharp peak and a large area. This show the solid lipid have a low level of crystallinity. The third image is mixture adapalene and compritol. The figure show that the crystalline level of adapalene decreased after mixing with solid lipid. And then DSC testing and XRD testing. The next raw material, we can see the DSC characterization. The first features of the adapalene compound is a very high melting point, up to 300 degrees Celsius. This show the adapalene compound have a high level crystallinity. This test is in line with the XRD test. The second image show the melting point of compritol at 82 degrees Celsius. In the third picture, the mix is adapalene and compritol, showing a decrease in the melting point of adapalene and following the melting point of compritol. This show that compritol successfully encapsulated adapalene. And then, I'm sorry, not XRD testing, but the HSM testing. The HSM characterization proved that compritol successfully encapsulated adapalene. This is a preparation of NLC adapalene. NLC was made using the hot homogenization method, followed by probe sonication. As much as 1% of adapalene input into compritol atol and liquid lipid caprylic triglyceride or myrtol, then melted including PSA. Surfactant with a water phase using magnetic stirrer, phase B. Phase B is added to phase A, then started using a high shear homogenizer or ultratura to form pre-emulsion. The next step is to reduce particle size using a sonic cutter probe. This is a formulation and characterization of adapalene. This is
1 minute more, Mr. Jafar.
Okay, thank you. This is the table shows there are 15 adapalene NLC formula. Selection for concentration using design extrovert method. Adapalene NLC formulation were characterization consisting of particle size, index polydispersion, and zeta potential using Malvern, GSP, England, zeta sizer, and particle size analyzer at room temperature. From the result of the characterization, so the particle size of adapalene NLC is in the range 100 till 500 nanometer. This has been shown by many research journals about NLC for topical administration routes. The polydispersity index is below 0.5. This indicated a good particle size distribution in NLC adapalene. And the zeta potential value is a range of minus 30 to 60 MV, the right potential delta value indicate a good level of stability in adapalene NLC. And then the last characterization, the entrapment efficiency, show quite good result, which is above 85%. This show the completor can properly encapsulate adapalene. All right, that is the presentation for me. Thanks for your attention. I apologize if the sentence that are not quite right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jafar, for the nice presentation. Is there any question from all the participants? I invite the participants to give question to the presenter.
I think enough, Mrs. February. I want to go to hospital.
Okay, one question from me, Mr. Jafar. When you use this compound for making nanoparticle, when you use the compound that has lipophilic properties or hydrophilic properties?
Okay, this is we can say to characterization to raw material. For example, adapalene we have to log P 8.8 sorry 8.6 okay, but is so to very high hydrophobic. This is the low solubility in water, but is if we can to direct to transdermal in skin, make to irritation and high side effect drug to skin and until to ya sampai bintik-bintik lah gitu. Oke, sampai itu ya irritation skin.
Irritation skin. So the formulation or the purpose of your research is making not a transdermal preparation, right? So what the preparation that you use that you will produce?
I'm formula in NLC adapalene. I'm preparation with to topical administration route.
Oh, topical.
Yes. Then next research to incorporation NLC adapalene incorporated to gel to if you use to administration topical route.
Topical route. Okay. Any question more? Any more question?
I think enough. Thank you. This is Febrina.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jafar, for the presentation. We move to the next presenter, Ibu Nike. Is Ibu Nike here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Ibu Nike, time is yours.
Yes. Oke, thank you moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Nike Herpianti. I'm the first author in this paper, and this paper title is The Antidiabetic Effect of Ethyl Acetate Partition of Ethanol Extract or Morinda citrifolialine in mice with oral glucose tolerance method and streptozotocin induction method. So let's get started. Introduction. Diabetes mellitus or DM is often referred to as the mother of various diseases. The prevalence each year has increased. The prevalence of the DM based on blood tests in people aged more than 15 years according to the 2011 Perkini consensus. Namely, in 2013, the numbers of sufferers was 6.9%, and in 2018 increased to 8.5%. Epidemiologically, it is estimated that in 2030, the prevalence of DM in Indonesia will reach 21.3 million people. So the goal therapy for DM patient is controlling blood sugar levels by administration oral hypoglycemics or exogenous insulin. Patient safety factors are a consideration for finding alternatives in dealing with DM from chemical compound of natural product. One of the medical plans used to lower blood glucose levels is noni or Morinda citrifolia. In general, noni contains terpenoid, anthraquinones, ecubin, and flavonoid. Okay, the next purpose of research. The first purpose is to determine the anti-diabetic activity to ethyl acetate partition from noni fruit by using the oral glucose tolerance test method. And the second purpose to determine the anti-diabetic activity of ethyl acetate partition from noni fruit using the streptozotocin induction method. Okay, in this the procedure of research, the Simplicia was prepared from noni fruit that had been cleaned and short dry as much as 3,064 kilogram. Then the extraction was carried out by maceration method using the 96% ethanol and the thickness. After that, it was partition with ethyl acetate, so that there were two layers, namely ethyl acetate and glycoside layers. You can be seen in this picture. Then the ethyl acetate partition was taken and prepared for testing with the two methods, namely the oral glucose tolerance and the streptozotocin induction method. The method was carried out by measuring fasting blood sugar levels and then induced the revision blood sugar levels of the experiment animals and the last analysis of the data. Okay, the first result with test tolerance glucose oral. From the results obtained, it can be see the graph like the graphic like in the figure. The measurement of fasting blood sugar levels in all experiment group is at the level of 50 until 70 milligram per deciliter, and after being induced by giving oral glucose, blood sugar levels have increased except in the normal group because it is not given induction. And the next another group giving ethyl acetate partition, natrium for the control negative, natrium carboxymethyl cellulosa, and positive control is glibenclamide. Then measured at a predetermined few minutes. The results show that there was a decrease in blood sugar levels in the ethyl acetate and glibenclamide group, but in the negative control or negative group, there was not a decrease. The second result with streptozotocin induction method. In the second method, namely induction with streptozotocin, it can be seen in the graphic that for the fasting blood sugar levels of each group, the results are below 100 milligram per deciliter, and then continue with induction using streptozotocin, except except in the normal control. Then the result obtained that for the positive control, negative control, and ethyl acetate partition groups experience an increase in blood sugar levels, namely above 200 milligram per deciliter. On the next day, given treatment for 7 days, and the result was that there was a decrease in blood sugar levels in the group given ethyl acetate partition and insulin, while in the negative control, there was not decrease. And the last conclusion, the first, ethyl acetate partition of noni fruit has activity as an antidiabetic using the oral glucose tolerance test method. And the second conclusion, ethyl acetate partition of noni fruit has activity as an antidiabetic proven by using the streptozotocin induction method. Okay, this is my presentation. Thank you for attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. Okay, is there any question from all the participants?
I have a question, Ms. Putri.
I invite.
Okay.
Okay.
Miss Silviana, I want to ask about the degree of blood sugar reduction between noni fruit ethyl acetate fraction compared to glibenclamide. I think you use glibenclamide as the positive control. The degree of the blood sugar reduction, is it lower, higher, or what compared to glibenclamide? Because from the graph, I couldn't conclude, is it like 2 times lower or 2 times higher, or I think the starting point is different, right? From the graph, the starting point of the positive control and ethyl acetate fraction is different, the starting point. So when it's reduced, I want to ask the degree of the blood sugar reduction. Is it better than glibenclamide, or the same, or lower?
Okay, Ibu Silvi.
I'm sorry.
Is the question clear enough?
My signal is bad.
Okay. Maybe you have another data to explain to us, like how many times is ethyl acetate fraction from noni fruit is reduce the blood sugar level. Is it the same as glibenclamide as a positive control? Or can you explain the percentage of the ethyl acetate fraction of noni fruit that reduce the blood sugar level of your sample?
Hello. Hello.
Ibu Nike. Oh, you still here? Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
I try answer the question. Noni in the partition may decrease the probability of being because many chemical compound. Many chemical compound as flavonoid, anthraquinone, terpenoids, and then ecubin. Hello?
Okay.
And can you compare it with the glibenclamide as the positive control? Is it better or has lower activity?
Okay. Not the compound that contain in ethyl acetate fraction, but I'm asking about the reduction percentage and compare it with glibenclamide. But I think maybe the signal is not quite well, so it's okay, Mrs. Putri.
Okay.
Okay. Ibu Nika still here and will answer
Hello?
the question.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Maybe because flavonoids in the noni fruit or ethyl acetate partition, which are one of the chemical compounds, have the same mechanism, namely carrying sugar in the blood. Same with positive control is glibenclamide.
Okay.
Enough, Ibu Dr. Alia?
I think so.
Well, we have 1 minute more for the discussion session. Another question for Ibu Nike. Is there another question? Okay, if there is no question, thank you, Ibu Nike, for the nice presentation and for the answer. Next, we will move to the fifth presenter, which is Ibu Revika. Ibu Revika, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Putri. Is my voice clearly enough?
Yes.
Okay. Before I start the presentation, I guess I would like to apologize because I'm afraid the signal here is quite bad because I think it's going to be raining here. I wish there's no problem in the middle of my presentation. Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, thank you for very much for giving me a chance to present our research. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Revika Rahmaniar from Department of Pharmaceutics and Pharmaceutical Technology, Faculty of Pharmacy, Universitas Pajajaran. This time I will present our research with title Computational Screening of Carboxylic Acid Group as Conformer for coamorph ethyl paramethoxycinnamate. First of all, ethyl paramethoxycinnamate or APMC is poorly water-soluble drug, so it needs to be overcome to improve this solubility for preparing dosage form. One of method that to form as coformer is one method to improve its solubility before we produce the dosage form. In coamorph system, we need a coformer, and coformer selection is a crucial step as it decides the outcome of the final coamorph in terms of stability and pharmaceutical performance. Carboxylic acid is one of coformer which has many kind of hydroxyl group as hydrogen donor to interact with ester group as hydrogen acceptor in APMC. There's two methods for coformer screening, which are wet lab method and computational method. The wet lab method require a long term, and it provide a high cost because we need to buy a coformer raw material, and we have to evaluate the interaction coformer and ethyl paramethoxycinnamate using some instrument. So the wet lab method is ineffective to use, while the computational method only require a short term. So we do not need to provide a high cost because we don't have to use a coformer raw material, and we do not have to evaluate the interaction between coformer and drug using some instrument. The wet lab method cannot show any interaction that occur between the coformer and APMC, while the computational method can show it. So, therefore, in this study, a carboxylic acid coformer screening will be carried out using a computational method to obtain a proper carboxylic acid coformer for APMC informing stable coamorph. In molecular docking, we use software Chimera and Autodock Fina, and the APMC, the structure of APMC and the carboxylic acid, we obtained from PubChem NCBI website. The carboxylic acid that we use, there's eight coformer from carboxylic acid group, which is benzoic acid, malonic acid, fumaric acid, succinic acid, oxalic acid, malic acid, citric acid, and tartaric acid. Result and discussion. The first, I make it one group: malic acid, oxalic acid, tartaric acid, and citric acid. Malic acid and oxalic acid had two hydroxyl group, and tartaric acid and citric acid, there's 4 hydroxyl group. From the interaction between these four coformer with the APMC, show that the Gibbs energy is below of 0 kilojoule per calorie. It means that the reaction between coformer and drugs or with APMC occurs spontaneously. Meanwhile, the value of RSMD for malic acid and APMC, so the value below of 2, which is it means the interaction of malic acid and APMC has low interaction possibility. Oxalic acid, tartaric acid, and citric acid show the value of RSMD below of around 2. So that interaction will have a possibility. And the hydrogen bonding that we need to form coamorph, there's no hydrogen bonding between this for coformer and APMC. So it is doubtful to form coamorphs. Instead, it will form a physical mixture. The second one, there's succinic acid, fumaric acid, and benzoic acid. The succinic acid and fumaric acid have two hydroxyl group, and benzoic acid had one hydroxyl group. The Gibbs energy between these three coformer and APMC, there is below of 0 kilojoule per calorie. It means that reaction occurs spontaneously. Meanwhile, there's a value, the value of RSMD of this interaction below of 2. It means that interaction possibility. That's interaction possibility. And from the interaction, we see the hydrogen bonding between these three coformer and APMC, so it has possibility to form coamorph and strengthened by van der Waals and electrostatic force. And the last one is malonic acid. Malonic acid has two hydroxyl group, and the Gibbs energy between malonic acid and APMC is below of 0 kilojoule per calorie, so it means reaction occur spontaneously. The value of RSMD is below of 2, so the interaction has a possibility. And the bonding between malonic acid and APMC, there's a 2 hydrogen bonding, so it has possibility to form coamorph. So from this result, we see that some carboxylic acid has a chance to making hydrogen bonding in malonic acid, succinic acid, benzoic acid, and fumaric acid, but the coamorph APMC malonic acid has a chance to form coamorph more stable than the APMC with succinic acid, fumaric acid, and benzoic acid, because the hydrogen bonding of APMC malonic acid has 2, and APMC and succinic, fumaric, and benzoic just has 1 hydrogen bonding. The interaction of carboxylic acid coformer and APMC in forming coamorphs indicated that the number of hydroxyl group in carboxylic acid did not determine the number of hydrogen bonding that occur. Carboxylic acid, which had 4 groups, did not form hydrogen bonding with APMC, while carboxylic acid, which has 1 hydroxyl group, succeed in forming a hydrogen bonding with APMC. There were also carboxylic acid that have 2 hydroxyl group that successfully form hydrogen bonding, like succinic acid and fumaric acid, and some did not form hydrogen bonding, like malic acid and oxalic acid. The conclusion, it can be concluded that the number of hydroxyl group or hydrogen donor could not determine whether a carboxylic acid coformer form a coamorph APMC. And second one, malonic acid, benzoic acid, fumaric acid, and succinic acid were stable coformer candidate for coamorph APMC. This is my reference. Thank you so much for your attention. I will get it back to moderator. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Ibu Revika. Now, is there any question for Ibu Revika? I invite the participants to give question.
I have a question, Mrs. Febrina. Okay. Mrs. Revika,
Yeah,
I
time
want
is
to
yours.
ask about your conclusion that the higher hydroxyl group doesn't correlate with the higher interaction with as a conformer. Can you like explain why it could be happen? Because if we like only if the interaction is only based on the hydrogen bond, so it's mean higher number of hydroxyl group will correlate with the highest interaction also.
Okay, thank you very much for your question, Ibu Alia. Okay, on my analysis, such like tartaric acid and citric acid, they have for hydrogen bonding, but that's for hydrogen bonding. But tartaric acid and citric acid did not form hydrogen bonding with APMC due to strong intramolecular hydrogen bonding. So maybe may I show you once again my presentation?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. From my analysis, for tartaric acid and citric acid, it has 4 groups, but it's quite the distance is quite it's quite dekat. Hydroxyl group that's quite close, So it maybe probably it has a chance to interact one each other from the hydrogen bonding in intramolecular itself. Maybe that's my analysis.
Because if we see from the result, the intramolecular hydrogen bond we couldn't see using the software or no, because when I see the slide, I'm seeing the hydrogen bond between citric acid and APMC, not with the structure itself, not with the citric acid itself. Because one intramolecular hydrogen bond, so it's mean the hydroxyl groups in citric acid or tartaric acid is bind for itself, right? Because it's intramolecular interaction. But when you see when we see the slide, you can see that the APMC is bind with the tartaric acid and citric acid, but when we see the hydrogen bond is like a 0.
Yes, the interaction between citric acid and APMC, that I see the van der Waals interaction beside the hydrogen bonding. Van der Waals and electrostatic force, Miss.
Okay. Maybe we can like visualize the intramolecular interaction or the hydrogen bond intramolecular interaction, because you say that this is maybe because the hydroxyl group is closer on the tartaric acid and citric acid. That's why the intramolecular hydrogen bond is exists better than in the other conformer. Maybe using another visualization to see, because we couldn't see the intramolecular interaction using this software, right?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Miss. It's actually I try again with the other molecular docking application to see that, Miss.
Okay, enough for Ibu Revika. The session is finished. Thank you very much for the presentation and for answering the question. Okay, next we move to the last but not least presenter, Ibu Tina Rostinawati. Okay, before Bu Tina present her presentation, I announce again to you to fill the attendance list of the fourth ISPST in the chat room. Thank you. Ibu Tina, the time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Putri, for the time and opportunity. Okay. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I will present about our research with the title Optimization of Expression of Gene Encoding Recombinant LL37 Antimicrobial Peptide in the Escherichia coli BL21-DE3. Okay, the background of this research is about the antimicropeptide. Antimicropeptide is also called the host defense peptide. It is part of the innate immune response that found in the human cell. It is produced by the epithelium cell, macrophage cell, and neutrophil cell. Antimicropeptide has activity to kill the microorganism such as microorganisms such as bacteria, including positive and negative bacteria, virus, fungi, and even cancer cell. The one of the antimicropeptide is the LL37. LL37 is cathelicidin derived from the human cell. Cathelicidin has activity to disrupt the membrane of cell bacteria. Cathelicidin overlapping the bacterial cell membrane in a carpet-like fashion make membrane dissolution, formation, or detergent-like effect. So the bacterial cell make a permeation and leakage of intracellular content. In several studies, there is a fact that the combination of the LL37 protein and the antibiotic such as ciprofloxacin can increase the activity of this antibiotic for against some microorganisms. So LL37 has anti-cancer activity which is strong and effective in the some research of the cancer cells using the LL37. LL37 can induce the apoptosis for the cancer cells. So based on this background, we want to produce the recombinant LL37 protein more in laboratory by the recombinant DNA technology. And then we want to know the optimal condition expression of this gene expression in E. coli BL21-DE3. The method of this research is start with the Western blotting. Western blotting is the tools to identify our recombinant protein. And next, we culture the recombinant bacteria to create the growth curve to know the optical density value, and then we expression of recombinant protein. In this process, we want to know the optimization conditions such as media concentration optimization and IPTG concentration optimization. After that, all protein that's produced or expressed in this process are categorized by the SDS-PAGE gel. And then protein band of the protein on the SDS-PAGE will be quantified by using MHC application. This is the first stage of a recombinant process of gene expression. This is the process of the recombinant expression standard. In this point, especially in the bacterial culture, we make the culture using media, some different media concentration. And the second, we use the some APTG concentration to know the optimum concentration of APTG. Okay, the first result about this research is about the Western blotting result. In the transfer membrane, we see the there is a protein band. That's what appear. It is mean that there is interaction between our recombinant protein with the antibody. Antibody that used in this process is anti-histec antibody. Why we use this antibody? Because our recombinant protein was designed has a histidine residue at take a position. If the Western blotting is positive, it means that our recombinant protein is successfully expressed in this process of expression recombinant protein. Okay, next we create growth curve of recombinant bacteria using some media concentration with the media strength such as half time, 1 time, 1.5 time, and twice. From this, as general, we see that the optical density value from the 4 condition, it's range from the 0.3 until 1 at 3 until 5 hours. So we decide the optical density value of this section is the 0.7 at 4 hours for our recombinant bacteria. In this section, if we have now the optical density value, it means that IPTG as inducer is added at 4 hours after incubation process. Okay, this is the slide that explains how the protein bind about the protein band from the 4 conditions of the expression of the recombinant protein from the 4 media strands or different some media strands. In this SDSP, we can see there is different protein band intensity. So we want to measure about the protein band intensity using the ImageG application. From the ImageG application, we can see that the value of the Ender error curve that height is from the use of the media concentration of media strength of 1 times. And to ensure our decision, we do analysis data of under area curve from optimization of media concentration. The result is there is a significant difference between the media concentration from 0.5 times and 1 time with the significant value below 0.05. But there is no significant difference between the media concentration from media strength of the 1 times and with media concentration 1.5 times and twice. Okay, the next, we want to know the optimization of APTG concentration. From the MEG application, we see the concentration of APTG is optimum in 1 millimolar. And then the same also we do analysis the data of the area under curve from optimization of APTG concentration, and the result is there is no significant difference between APTG concentration of APTG 1 millimolar with APTG 1.5 millimolar. So APTG concentration optimum is 1 millimolar. The last, we do the protein purification with the NENTA affinity chromatography. In this slide, we can see that target protein is not fully full because there is some impurity protein in the elution fraction. We can see there is some protein band in the elution fraction. So we have to separate these impurities protein by strategy using the degradation of initial concentration. This strategy have ever used in our previous research, and the process is successful. Okay, the last is the conclusion about our research is the LL37 protein encoding gene from the plasmid 401 LL37 can be expressed in E. coli, the L21 as intracellular protein is approved by the result of Western blot, and the LL37 was optimally expressed with 1 time media strength and 1 millimolar APTG as inducer. This is the reference that we use. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Tina, for nice presentation. Is there any question from all the participants to Ibu Tina? Okay, if there is no question, I have 2 questions, Bu. First, why we have to make this recombinant protein first, and then the second one, how we choose the concentration of the inducer when we do the recombinant or this technique when we do this technique. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Febrina, for the question. The answer for the first question is why we use recombinant protein for LS37, because we know the LS37 is the protein that produced from the cell that is from human. It is impossible if we get protein from the human. So we have to produce the protein synthetic in the laboratory by the recombinant DNA technology. And if we use the recombinant DNA technology, we can get more recombinant protein. So the recombinant protein in the next session we can use in the therapy, like such as antimicrobe, anti-cancer, even wool healing. The LL37 can wool healing mechanism. And the second answer for the question is why we do some concentration for inducer, because in the expression of recombinant protein, we must ensure that protein is produced high. So we have to use the optimal inducer. If we use the inducer is more high than then optimal condition, maybe a PTG or as end user can make a toxic for the cell, for the recombinant bacterial cells.
But in theoretically, the more inducer we use, so the more production of the recombinant protein.
Okay, yes.
Right? Okay. Any other question? Okay, thank you. If there is no question anymore, thank you for today. Thank you, Ibu Tina, for the nice presentation.
Okay.
Now I invite you to turn on your camera so we can do the photo session for this parallel session. Yeah.
Okay. I will stop the presentation.
Yes. The other, please. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Wait.
Ulangi.
Okay. Okay, open your camera. Pose. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Okay, for all the participants, thank you for your attendance today, and we hope we can meet again tomorrow at 8:30. Okay, thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Izin live ya.
Mangga.